The Big Ten game of the week on CBS is at the Horseshoe. It's Ohio State hosting the Iowa Hawkeyes. Really nice matchup here. Two offenses that have turned the corner this season. Could be a pretty high-scoring game. 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS. We're going to get you a super preview here on CBS Sports HQ for what we hope is a super matchup. Caleb Johnson for Iowa is the second leading rusher in the country. Will Howard in this Ohio State offense has so many weapons, but their defense might be even better. Let's welcome in Gary Danielson, who's going to be on the call for this one. Gary, a lot has been made over the last few weeks of Ohio State's weak September schedule. Is there any concern as they head into really the meat of their schedule that they just haven't been challenged enough?
Well, it's a good point. I mean, preseason is over for Ohio State football. There's no doubt about that. They just completely outmatched talent-wise the four teams they played and really were never pushed. But I do think the Buckeyes and Ryan Day and, both coordinators have wisely used their weapons. Not all out yet. They're saving them for a long season, and Ohio State has 4 key regular season games, and this is the first of the 4. Iowa's defense with 10 of 11 starters back on this defense will be a challenge for the Buckeyes. I think they're kind of looking forward to it. I will say this, though, Chris, it's the first time I've ever heard Iowa included into a high-scoring matchup. So I think the people at Iowa will be happy with your preview there.
Yeah, look, both teams have new offensive coordinators. In Ohio State, right. you thought of this team as a high-scoring team even the last few years, averaging over 30 points a game, but it wasn't good enough for them. It wasn't good enough to get over the hump against Michigan. Wasn't good enough to win a college football championship. So they go out and they get Chip Kelly, and the offense has exploded so far. What's the difference this year?
Yeah, I think it's a recommitment, Chris, back to a little bit more Ohio State traditional football. Urban Meyer did it. Jim Tressel did it, all the way back to the history of Ohio State. I think they realized that, yes, we can throw the ball around and we can recruit a bunch of wide receivers, and they do still have that. But I think they made a recommitment to being more physical, being able to run the ball. And to do that, they felt they had to go back and get a quarterback that could give them another dimension. And if you're watching this team, it's been put together beautifully. Up the middle, Seth McLaughlin at center, Will Howard at quarterback, 2 outstanding running backs, maybe as good a tandem in college football. Diverse offense. You really don't know what direction they're coming from with Chip Kelly. And then obviously maybe one of the top wide receiver groups in the country. I'd give them an A at every level, maybe offensive line a B, but so far so good for them. But this will be a step up going against this Iowa defense. They're veteran, they're strong, they're stout, and they take a lot of pride against teams that run the ball at them.
The issue last year for Iowa was the inability to do anything offensively. Now, I'm not saying that they've got some great offense now, but at least they have one dimension to that, and that's the run game, which has been one of the best in the country. Caleb Johnson is the second leading rusher in the country with new offensive coordinator Tim Lester. You saw them firsthand against Iowa State. How have they been so successful on the ground?
Well, Chris, a good question. I mean, even prior to the game, before Caleb really broke out this year, the offensive coordinator, Tim Lester, was raving about him, saying, I just came from the Green Bay Packers, and I'm amazed at the size, the speed, the explosiveness that he brings to this offense. And, if they give him a few creases, he's liable to get them the big play that Iowa needs. I have a hunch, though, Chris, they're going to need more than Caleb Johnson. I mean, as good as Will Howard and this Ohio State offense is, I think it would be asking too much for the Iowa defense to hold this Ohio State Buckeye offense to under 28 points. So if I'm Tim Lester, the offensive coordinator, I need Cade McNamara to step it up just a bit here. And I would do it with the tight ends. Back when they beat Ohio State back in 2017, the Iowa Hawkeyes threw 4 touchdown passes against Ohio State to their tight ends. Now, admittedly, 2 pretty good ones, but they still have pretty good ones. I think that's where they have to attack, force Ohio State to get out of their nickel defense, play 3 linebackers, and then attack with the tight ends first, I mean, Cade has to step it up a bit. There's no doubt he can't play at the level he's been playing and expect to beat Ohio State. And I think that's their chance. And if they do it just a bit, then they'll be able to run the ball.
You made an interesting observation when calling the Iowa State game. You're the first announcer that I've seen or heard that has pointed out that Cade McNamara throws the ball at times without the laces. And it's not just the quick passes. He'll throw the ball down the field without the laces. And Gary, he was asked about that this week. Take a listen to what he said.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it kind of depends. Like, if I want to get the ball out of my hand, sometimes you don't have time to find the laces. It also depends on sometimes if when the ball gets to me, like the rotations of the ball, if it's not consistent, if I'm, kind of where I catch it, I don't want to be, flipping the ball around in the backfield. But honestly, I don't really have a huge preference on throwing with or without the laces. I mean, kind of every quarterback at some point will have to throw without the laces. So I don't have a huge preference. I mean, obviously, if I can find the laces, that's nice, but it's not the end of the world if I don't.
Well, we've come across a bunch of pictures, not just his days at Iowa, but going back to Michigan, where he's throwing the ball without the laces. As a former Big Ten and NFL quarterback, what do you make of his reasoning for that?
So I preferred the laces, but oftentimes when I was playing against the Minnesota Vikings, Purple People Eaters, or the Chicago Bear front with Buddy Ryan, or going up against the Raiders, I did not have time to get the laces either. So sometimes you have to do it, but I am surprised the number of times. Usually it's second nature for a quarterback to grab the snap and automatically do it without even thinking about it, getting your grip. But he seemed to be comfortable with it. No matter what, whether he has the laces or not this week, he must play at a higher level. I really think it's the game. And remember, the last time Cade was in the horseshoe with Michigan State, Michigan won that game. I think he was 13 for 19, something like that in game. Iowa would take a game just like that, under 20 passes and a more precision passing attack from Cade.
Yeah, how about just scoring some points against a ranked team? They played 3 ranked teams last year, Gary. They got outscored 92-0 in those games. This is a big measuring stick game for this Iowa football program. Do you think they've closed the gap enough to make this interesting come the fourth quarter this week?
I don't know if 92-0 can be deceiving, but I will say this. For the Iowa Hawkeye offense, it was injured a year ago. In the first game we did against Penn State, they lost their tight end on the first series of the game, and then Cade was really struggling with a hip pointer or hamstring. He was not 100%. And then the next 2 games, they went with a backup quarterback that's no longer with the team. So as I go, my main point in this game is there's a lot of good players on the field, but you're not going to beat Ohio State without high-level quarterback play.
That's Gary Danielson, high-level quarterback back in his day in the booth with Brad Nessler and Jenny Dell on the field for Iowa and Ohio State Saturday at 3:30. That's the second of our doubleheader on CBS. We will kick things off at noon Eastern time with the first Commander-in-Chief trophy game. It's unbeaten Navy on the road at Air Force on CBS and Paramount+.